Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bites, whiskey reviews with a gaming twist. I am Clifton, and I am very, very excited for tonight's stream. We have a very special guest coming up here soon. Thank you all, first of all, so much for joining me at this earlier time. I know some of you may be very confused getting the notification right now. Why is he live at 4 o'clock Pacific? But you got to do what you got to do when you're working with distilleries around the country. So that's actually going to happen a few more times in the coming weeks. So just keep an eye out. I'll schedule the streams well in advance. We're going to be doing a few different 4 p.m. streams just to accommodate our guests because I'm so excited to have them here. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to our mod tour here in the chat. I see Donnie the Linux Cat. I think Donnie's the only one that's made it so far. I know Brandon, who's our usual mod, he is working. So unfortunately, he cannot be here tonight. But we have Don the Linux Cat. Thank you, or Donnie the Linux Cat. Also want to do some patron shout outs since we have some few of you guys here in the chat already. Adriana and her boyfriend her husband. Wow, my bad. Her husband, Nick, who just joined Patreon yesterday? No, it was a couple days ago. So shout out to you, Adriana and Nick. Thank you all so much for being a part of the community here. I also see Don Nishida. Just a little heads up, y'all. On Saturday, Don Nishida is actually going to be part of my stream. So he's actually introduced me to an amazing mixologist named Mary, and she's going to be making us several different cocktails that are whiskey-based. She's also based in Hawaii. And then we're going to have Don on, and we're going to have some samples. So it's going to be a really, really fun stream. But first of all, what are y'all drinking? Tell me what you're drinking here in your glass so far. I don't have anything in my glass yet. So just very soon, I will have lots of whiskey to try with you guys. Also want to say for the people that are patrons, we will not be having our after party hangout tonight. That's normally, following our stream. I know the stream schedule is kind of weird today, so we're not going to do that tonight, but stick around because on Saturday we will be having our monthly Patreon hangout. So that's for everyone that is $5 and up on Patreon. So if you've been considering joining, this Saturday is a great time to be a part of our community there. Those are always so much fun. That'll be right after our stream with Don and Mary. So stick around for that. I also did want to say, I did just do something that's a little crazy, but I did. I launched a TikTok. So I've had the TikTok for a while, but I just relaunched the TikTok. So not only do I do really cringy videos there, which y'all know that's part of TikTok, I also have been doing some very exclusive reviews, like quick reviews of different whiskeys. So if you are not on TikTok, no worries. Like I'm not going to try to convince you to be on TikTok, but if you're already on TikTok, there is my little code over there. So feel free to scan it with your phone right now. I'll leave it up for a second. Follow me there. It's been a lot of fun. I've been meeting some really great, there's like a whole bourbon community on TikTok. I can't believe it, but there is. So definitely check me out on TikTok if you're a part of that community. It's just the same name here. It's just Bourbon Bites. So I know it's like crazy. You guys wouldn't expect me to be on TikTok, but okay. So let's see what you guys have in your glass. We see someone said, wait, we saw it a second ago. Where'd it go? Wow, you guys are chatty tonight. Someone said they have Traverse City in their glass. Well, now that you have Traverse City in your glass, let's introduce our guest of the night. I would like to welcome and introduce our guest, Chris Fredrickson, who is the co-founder and distiller over at Traverse City Whiskey Company. Welcome, Chris.
Howdy, Clifton. Great to be here. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. So Chris and I actually didn't really remember, but we actually met at the Fred Minnick's Whiskey Expo that happened on Repeal Day. So it's like a virtual, I told you guys about it in a previous stream, but it was like a virtual avatar kind of situation. And that's why I don't recognize. I'm like, oh, wait, you were that avatar. But it was a fun. Did you enjoy your time doing that?
Yeah, it was a long day. It was it's a weird new world in the avatar virtual conference room brand debut world for sure.
Yeah. And you guys are just like standing in your booth, like watching people just go back and forth all day, waiting for someone to pop in.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I gave you a short introduction, but feel free to introduce yourself. Like, tell us about you, like not necessarily how you got your start, but just what you do with Traverse City.
Yeah. So again, my name is Chris Fredrickson. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm one of our distillers. I helped start the company, and it just so happens that when you help start a company, you end up doing whatever has to be done whenever it needs to be done. So whether it be cleaning up the satellite tasting room that we have at our production facility, I handle a lot of production, marketing, product development, R&D, pretty much everything that has to get done, on a daily basis. But I have two business partners. We all wear 100 hats. So it's just depends on the day.
Sure. You said you guys just started pretty recently. Is it 2011 when you guys started?
Yeah. Yep. We started in 2011, sold our first bottle in 2012, and have been at it hard since.
That's awesome. Well, welcome. And again, thank you so much for joining us here on the channel. Like I said, I was talking to him before. We haven't had a distillery guest on yet. So this is the first in a series. I have so many streams lined up in the next couple of weeks with representatives from different brands. Not necessarily anyone of your caliber, literally being a co-founder, but but you're a very special person to have as our first guest here. So again, I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, right on. It's great to be here. Clifton, I think you said your glass was empty.
Oh, that's a good point. Why is I'm 7 minutes into the stream? Why am I this glass empty? So what is the first thing we're drinking here tonight?
Why don't we pour a small dram of the straight bourbon?
Sure. Sounds good. So this one, I noticed in some stores it's labeled as XXX Bourbon. Is that still the name of this one officially?
Yeah, it's kind of the trade name that we go by. We'll call it bourbon, but also go by XXX or something of that.
Yeah,
nature.
how did that name come about? Because I was curious. I was like, XXX Bourbon. Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah, no, there's a lengthy story behind XXX as it relates to bourbon, or I guess whiskey, going back to Prohibition. But it's just carrying kind of this XXX moniker, highlighting specific barrels to designate what they are. And we grabbed that from history and brought it into this product. This is actually the first product that we launched the company with. What is it? Almost 10 years ago now.
Gotcha.
Wow.
So I guess tell us about the beginning of the company. Like, what inspired you to start a distillery? I don't imagine there's a big distilling culture in your area. I could be wrong about that, but were you guys like one of the first in that area?
Yeah, so there is now a large distilling culture in Michigan. Michigan actually happens to be a very business-friendly state to work in. They make starting a distillery easier than other states like California. But we were one of the first in the state 10 years ago. I think the pioneers were back 15 years ago, but we started before probably 80-90% of the rest of the distilleries around the state.
Nice.
We started the company. So my trade after college was management consulting, and I was getting burned out of that grind. I had actually started a whiskey club back then that I called the Bourbon Trust.
Awesome.
I would go buy fancy bottles. Like back then, you could find anything, right? You could find all the big names at exceptionally reasonable prices.
I missed that boom. I guess I was a little too young, or I was older. I was young enough to I was old enough to buy the whiskey. I just wasn't old enough to appreciate the whiskey. So I missed that.
100%. I completely understand. I had this group of buddies from around the world, between Australia, all the way from Australia to France, and just guys I went to college with. And so I would go buy these bottles, and buying $100 bottle at the time was a big deal, but split between 8 people was no big deal. So I would divvy everything up, and we'd do these virtual tastings on I think it was Google Meet or something like that 10 years ago. And
wait, you guys like were the precursor to what we're doing now.
Yeah. And it ended up being very difficult to ship whiskey internationally. So we only probably did 5 or 6, but we were all enthusiasts. And in 2011, I stumbled across a set of my great grandfather's distilling patents that were kind of hiding on our family's cherry farm up here in northern Michigan. And I shared those ideas with my current business partners, and that kind of birthed the idea of Traverse City Whiskey. So via a friend of a friend of a friend, we got introduced to the then and now lead salesman at MGP, who was trying to get rid of a set of 24-year-old bourbon barrels. And so we applied for a DSP, our distilled spirits permit, set up shop downstate Michigan. bottled our first batch, sold our first bottle July 7th of 2012. And by the end of the year, our sales had picked up enough, which is not an easy thing. Like that's a crazy time
Oh,
frame to achieve any
absolutely.
type of trajectory of sales. But we realized that we were onto something, and we quit our full-time jobs. Both my business partners were practicing attorneys, and quit our jobs and threw all of our eggs in this basket.
Well, it seems to have worked out well because I was telling you before, I see your products everywhere in Southern California. So where else are you guys like distributing to? Are you guys nationwide at this point, or are you guys still just have specific markets?
Yeah, we're semi-national at this
Okay.
point. So ironically, being that you're in California, one of our first markets was California.
Ah,
It just
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just it's so big that we were trying to keep the sales pipe going and seeding a market like California, Los Angeles being a very impressionistic market, at least
Mhm.
especially back then with other brands like Effin and um, brands that were building a more designer presence between LA, Chicago, New York. Um, we tried to seed the market in that way, and it worked out nicely. But yeah,
Mhm.
we're at half the country now, East Coast. We're on the West Coast. We're in the Midwest Coast. All the states around Lake Michigan, and then down to Florida, Texas, Arizona.
Oh, gotcha. So yes, I mean
Yeah,
pretty much like the major markets. So our patron here, Nick, says bring some to Utah. Are you guys in Utah
mm,
yet, or?
special order, but yeah, we do have a few accounts in Utah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I just noticed I haven't drank the bourbon yet. What am I doing? So that
that
you
is
said this bourbon. So this is your main product. I mean, I know you guys have the cherry stuff, which we're going to get into a bit later. But is this
yep,
what you guys started with, the straight bourbon?
yeah. So this is it's a 3 or 4 year bourbon, depending on what batch you're on. All of our new batches are batch, everything from batch. Let's see, I think 16 or 17 on is going to be a 4 year, and then previous it was kind of a blend between 3 and 4 year. But yeah, so we launched with a 4 year bourbon, same recipe. Back then it was definitely distilled in Indiana. It was an
Sure.
MGP recipe. We have
Hmm.
since been distilling a copious amount of whiskey up here in Traverse City with the same recipe, but um, a similar framework. So same recipe, but different coopers. We've been experimenting with probably 5 different coopers from around the country, all 53-gallon barrels, and all
Oh,
our
nice.
water source, and then of course distilled, bottled, and aged up in Traverse City.
Gotcha. So are you guys still blending with the Indiana whiskey, like your own whiskey, or is this like 100% your whiskey?
Yeah, great question. And my plan is to actually tackle that when we get onto cherry.
Okay,
This,
sure. Yeah, we
yeah,
can.
this.
Well,
So
I would say this is really nice. It's super well balanced on the nose. I think, I mean, it's a very approachable whiskey, and I think that's what a lot of people seek out with, just a typical straight bourbon whiskey.
mhm. The idea for our lower proof line, as an
Mhm.
example, what we're drinking right now is 86 proof.
Mhm.
Everything is built to be versatile. So one thing we've always tried to explore and exhibit as a brand is being approachable and being humble.
Mhm.
So, a lot of brands, more premium brands, can kind of have a nose up attitude, or a nose up, maybe a very like refined flavor profile, and certain characteristics that are specific and niche. Our
Sure.
goal is to be versatile and friendly to the market, whether you know whiskey well or not.
Yeah, and I mean, you said this is like 3 to 4 years old, but that oak is a really big impact on this. Usually, when I think a lot of whiskey drinkers are, scared off by that, but I'm really, really surprised by how much oak influence is on this whiskey, even at the lower proof, because these guys know I'm a bit of a proof hound, so I always go for the higher proof stuff. But there's like a good bit of a bite there too with that oak.
Yeah, and I'm getting what batch are you sipping from right now?
So batch 16. So it's this,
16. Yep.
and that's the
So
bottle. If anyone cares, well, he has all the bottles there. This is just a mini bottle of it, but.
yeah, our friendly 200s.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a really
Yes,
nice set. I mean, I think. Do you guys sell those like in stores? The set of
I
three.
was The 3-pack. Yeah, we do in Michigan. It's eventually going to become a nationwide thing because it's like the easiest $30 care package that you can pick up and actually try.
Absolutely. I wish more brands would do that because I love trying a lineup from a distillery, especially when it's a smaller one, a craft distillery. Getting a chance to try multiples of their products at once is the way to sell me on a brand. So this absolutely sold me on this. And we had a question. Adriana was asking, what is the proof? So this is 43% ABV, 86 proof. Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, it's been a while because I've tasted it a bit before. I was trying to get some just some experience with trying the brand, but I just drank a lot of it already. It's very, very good.
Yeah, we've received some good feedback from folks like yourself that are excited to try new stuff, but don't necessarily want to commit to a 750 because what if you don't like it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you've got these are 200 mLs. They're not available in like mass market yet, but if you happen to be in Michigan, passing by one of our tasting rooms in Detroit or Traverse City, they're very much available.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned cherries earlier. Cherry seems to be a big part of not just Traverse City, because I mean, you guys, that's like your biggest export almost. I feel like that's like what I hear the most about your city, but it's also important to your family too. So tell us a bit about that. Like, how is your family involved with the cherry industry there?
Yep. So Traverse City is the cherry capital of the world. Like you said, the chief export of the area. It's ingrained in not just our DNA, but the DNA of all of northern Michigan. But my family's actually been farming for 3 generations. My father's 3rd generation. And we were one of the first sweet cherry growers in the state. Ironically, my grandfather, great grandfather, was also a practicing attorney in northern Michigan and getting burned out. And he acquired a grant it was a Michigan state, it was a federal land grant through them. And he had an opportunity to start an orchard, to basically throw away his law career, start a cherry orchard, and farm it. And he did it. His son, my grandfather, went to law school as well, became a lawyer. He quit and kept farming. My father went to Michigan State.
Very familiar to your story.
Threw in the towel, and he went back to the family farm. And so they carried on the legacy for the last 50 years. We've been growing. We grew sweets forever. We're now growing tart cherries, sour cherries. But it's kind of been ingrained in everything I was raised with, going back, almost 60 years.
Yeah, and I think it shows up obviously in the brand. I was using that as kind of a segue to go into what you said. I think you said is like one of your most popular products, the American Cherry Whiskey.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, you guys also do cocktail cherries. Like these actually is my introduction to your brand, because I have a friend I was experimenting with different ones, because I've been buying. I eventually evolved to Luxardo. I realized that, oh wait, you need nice cherries. You can't just buy the cheapest stuff in the market. So I was on Luxardo, but I was like, you know what? I see there's other brands out there. What are other good brands? And my friend actually recommended these. He's like, these are my favorite. These are my go-to. I stock up on them. They're on Amazon, I think. So he always has these in stock. So I had to pick some up, and I agree. These are awesome.
That is pretty badass that you heard about it from somebody else.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he actually has the whiskey blog, so I trust his judgment. So he's very experienced. So if he recommends them, I know they're good.
Yeah, right on.
So yeah, tell us about the American Cherry edition of your whiskey.
Yep. So the reason we chose this lineup is because the cherry is an evolution of the bourbon. It is the same recipe.
Gotcha.
However, we drop the proof of it while we're blending the barrels together, and then infuse the whiskey with northern Michigan cherries.
Awesome.
So
this one's 35% ABV for those curious. So it's 70 proof.
Yep. So the first one was 86. This one was 70. We found that if we do the fruit infusion at a higher proof, you almost pull too much of the nutty, like almondy characteristics out of the cherry. And so that slightly lower proof breathes cherry, but subtly. So the intention behind the cherry whiskey is you're still drinking whiskey, but with that hint of cherry. You do get a punch in the nose. It is there's an aromatic nose.
Oh, absolutely.
By design. However, it's just the intention is to have whiskey with a hint of cherry, not cherry with a hint of whiskey, right? So it's a subtle taste, subtle flavor.
Exactly. And I told him I actually just picked this up yesterday, and I've already drank this much of it. That's how much I enjoy this. Like, I mean, you guys know, like I'm very particular about things that are, a lot of the brands say flavored whiskeys. This is nothing like any of the ones I've ever tried before. This is legit, feels like it was infused with the flavor. So tell us a little bit about that process. How does that happen?
Yeah, cool timing with the question. Last year, so every year back in Traverse City, we host the National Cherry Festival. And it's the largest economic driver in northern Michigan year round. We're bringing 1 million people over the course of probably 10 days. And we celebrate the agricultural heritage of the area. This year, COVID, the Cherry Fest is canceled. So we hosted what we refer to as the first annual Cherry Whiskey Festival. And we kind of showcased a tree to glass video of what goes into making the cherry whiskey. So shaking the fruit, selecting the proper barrels, infusing the fruits. The way that we do it is we take the fresh cherries, put them into like a cheesecloth. It's like a giant tea bag almost. Set them into the whiskey at the lower proof, and then they macerate. They just sit and share their essence with the whiskey. And then after one of my colleagues is done, he tastes it and tastes it and tastes it, says we're good to go. We pull it out. It could be 3, 5, 7 days, depending on the tank and the maturation. And pulls it out, and then we hook it up to the bottler, the filler, and put it in the bottle.
Wow. I mean, in 3 to 5 days, like, I mean, that's such an impact on the flavor. I mean, for those of you curious that haven't tried it, this isn't like an artificial cherry flavor. Y'all know that's like a note that I don't like. This is fresh cherries. Like you said, you guys use real cherries. It's not like you're just, mixing it with, fake cherries. This is like really, really nice. Like you said, it's whiskey with a cherry note. It's not like cherry forward and then the whiskey. I love that about it. Yeah.
So earlier you asked about the MGP versus our distillate.
Right.
So in 2017, actually, let me back up. We launched this product in 2013, and the market was saturated with popcorn flavored vodka.
Oh God, that sounds like what I was drinking back then. I drink flavored vodka. That's how I got my start. Ugh.
Every variety under the sun. And so when we said, "Hey, world, we have a cherry whiskey," everybody said, "No, thank you. We're good. We don't need another variety."
Right.
And it took us a long time to advocate for the product. And eventually the market was like, "Oh, wow. This is a product that it is a little bit lower proof. So you're going to be able to get exposure to a broader market that maybe doesn't understand whiskey, right? You're trying to get into it, but you don't want to show up to a party with a bottle of Barrel Proof."
I mean, that feels like my kind of party, but I get the
point. Yeah. So over the course of the last 7 years, not only has the cherry whiskey become our leader, it has become the best-selling craft spirit in the state of Michigan. So it's
whoa, that's awesome.
We stood behind it. We pushed the heritage of the product and communicated this is what it is. It's not whiskey with fake cherries. This is whiskey with something that is near and dear to Traverse City. And we stood behind it. And so fast forward in 2017, when I was doing trade shows, we'd done the math and we realized that our production was going to be caught up and we could eventually phase out of MGP and then rely on our own juice to blend and move forward with.
Sure.
And then that was the exact time that the cherry whiskey started picking up steam. So in 2018, the bourbon and cherry were selling 50-50. And then 19 and 20, the cherry is up, 200%. And there's absolutely no way that we can rely on our own distillate at this point. We've had to rely on a partner,
especially for a relatively new distillery.
Yep. So we're a victim of that growth.
Hmm.
I wish I could tell you that it was our juice. I would, I would have so much pride in that statement. But frankly, MGP is a wonderful partner. They do a great job and have helped us stay afloat during this next phase of our company.
Sure. And yeah, I want to set this clear. I'm a big fan of MGP. I actually sat down with they have their own brand called George Remus. So I actually sat down with the representative from them and had a stream with my friend Bill over at the Whiskey Dick. So big fans of MGP, and I know that's how so many distilleries get their start, and it totally makes sense. I mean, you're making the what do you say, the number one whiskey in, or what was it? What was the official title for what this is in your state?
Yeah, number one craft spirit in the state.
Number one craft spirit in the state. So obviously makes sense. But so is there plans to maybe, with which we're going to get into a few of your expressions here very soon. Is there plans to maybe make those exclusively yours? Are you going to slowly start blending them with what you're getting from MGP? What's the plan there?
Yes. Also, great question. We're right now, we acquired a new building. Actually, I'll back up just to add some context.
Sure.
We have our distillery and tasting room is downtown Traverse City. That's where we distill, and we have a cocktail bar. It's a 2,000 or 2,200 square foot building. Small. We don't have any indoor seating, so we put everybody in the yard in a couple igloos. It's very, very humbling experience right now with COVID.
Awesome.
But it's a small building, and we outgrew it within months of being there because whiskey barrels take up so much space. We moved into our current building, production facility, which is probably 5 miles away, and it's a 12,000 square foot building. And we thought, what are we going to do with all this room? This is like, let's put in a basketball court. We're like, no, we'll bring in more barrels. It'll be fine.
Sounds like a good
fast forward a year. That was 2015. We're like, oh shit, we're out of room again. So we went shopping, and there was a defunct 35,000 square foot cherry processing facility down the street. We acquired that a couple years ago. It's very large, and it's on almost 40 acres. And we've been in the planning process for the last 2 years of how we're going to use that property and that land to develop the largest family-owned distillery north of Kentucky. And well, without COVID, we'd already be online, but we couldn't build for the last 12 months.
Sure.
But fast forward 12 months from today, that distillery will be online. We have a 24-inch Vendome column, which is going to take our production capacity today of 3 barrels per day up to 67 per day.
Wow,
so
that's a huge difference.
It'll be a big jump, and it'll allow us to rely only on ourselves 2 years, 3 years down the road.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
and I feel like
plan.
I did listen to a couple other podcasts. You guys are planning to build a cherry orchard on that property. Is that still true?
We talked about that today. That cherry orchard, we're doing 2. One is going to go in the courtyard in the entryway to the distillery. So it'll kind of be that, this is who we are. This is a hallmark of the area. Sure. And then we're going to replant, because there was a cherry orchard behind it and an apple orchard behind it. We're going to replant all of that behind the facility.
That's awesome. And just like, paying tribute to your roots. I mean, that was the inspiration, behind your family's history. I mean, you said you found your grandfather's patent related to whiskey. Now, that wasn't necessarily like a mash bill. It was more of like the process, correct? Can you tell us about what that was that you discovered?
Yeah, so it was my great grandfather, and he had 3. So this is on the other side of the family. One side is cherries, and the other side is engineering. And gotcha. he was specifically a chemical engineer, and he had 3 distilling patents that were distilling process related that he had patented during the U.S. Prohibition. So as soon as we found them, I took them to my grandmother. It was her father. And I said, like, why would you not share this with me? He was into distilling. You know that I love whiskey. This is crazy news. And she looked at me and she was like, well, obviously he was doing that. Like, why? How would you not know that? And I'm like, you're the only person that would know that. Why would you
Right.
not show that? It's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm just reading through a couple of the comments before we move on to the other two expressions, because I know you had to head out soon. So um, David says that his wife's parents have a place in, whoa, that is a word. How do you pronounce that? Do you know?
What does it start with? P?
Charlevoix?
Charlevoix. Yeah.
Charlevoix. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm from South Carolina. I don't know how to pronounce everything. So they said they always go up to Traverse City. Can't wait to visit the distillery next summer. Don Nishida, our friend, says, I just ordered a bottle of those cherries on Amazon. So see, we're
Awesome.
selling them on those cherries. There was a comment earlier I didn't want to miss. Someone said I really want to try cast strength cherry. So is that like a limited distillery release? What is that one?
It is. Yeah, that was part of our cherry whiskey fest. So we took the same approach with the what we now call the bottle proof cherry, and we blended together some. So this is it's a 3-year product.
Okay.
For the barrel proof cherry, cast strength cherry, we blended together I think it was 5-year-old barrels.
Oh wow.
And then infused them with fruit. And it was a very delicate process because infusing at that proof it can like eat the cherry. The ethanol will eat the cherry up.
Sure.
And that was part of what we showcased at our Cherry Whiskey Fest back in August.
Gotcha. So, and then also, Shelf has mentioned it's finally a safe place to admit I like Traverse City Whiskey's apple bourbon. So that's also a limited release as well, right?
It is. Yeah. Right now, that's only selling in probably like 3 or 4 markets. But yeah, it's very popular.
Is it similar thing? You steep the apple in the
Yep.
Gotcha.
Same,
so yeah,
let's move on. Same exact idea.
That's the apple one right there. Okay. So that was the rye. I was like, oh yeah, we need to move to the rye. But so that's awesome. I mean, apple. I'm really curious to see here that I'll have to keep an eye out for that one. Maybe I have some friends that. I mean, Kira said she loves it. Kira's a friend of mine. She's over at the Shelf Turds. Kira, I might need to sample your bottle of that. Let's talk about your rye, the North Coast Rye. This was also part of the tasting kit. This is a 45% ABV, so 90 proof. Is it age stated or is it just?
Yeah, so the age statement is between 3 and 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's heavy on the 4-year, but interesting story about the rye. When we first started distilling, we went ham on rye because we saw an opportunity in the market. We were thinking that we wanted to be known for something that wasn't so bourbon centric. This is before cherry took off, of course. And when we started distilling back in 2015, you may not know this, but there was a huge gap with wood in the barrel market. So
really? I wasn't aware.
There was a flood in Kentucky, in the Ozarks, and it took a lot of this usable wood, and it was at that point it was problematic, and it changed the entire wood market for probably a full year. And so we had 2 choices. One, we don't distill, or we distill but we don't put into a barrel to age. Or 2, we pay for premium Ferrari barrels, which at the time were through a cooper called Canton Cooperage.
Okay.
And the barrels are exceptional. 18-month kiln dried, fantastic wood. And we were distilling 100% rye at the time. And this whiskey matured so fast in this Ferrari barrel. And at the time we were underfunded. We were self-funded, by the way, but we didn't have capital. Spending extra $100 per barrel, $200 per barrel was a really big deal. And at the time we were like, we either overpay. We said overpay, not knowing that we were getting a truly a premium product. But we ended up investing in these barrels, and this 100% rye that we were distilling a ton of, with these barrels, they reached maturity at a much younger age than expected, By the time we hit 2.5, 3 years, we were like, wow, this is certainly something special. So the age statement between is a blend. This is a blend of 100% rye and 95.5. So 95% rye, 5% malted barley.
Sure.
It's a 50-50 blend, cut down to 45% ABV. And the marriage of the two, on one hand, with 100% rye, you've got the butter. With the 95.5, you have spice. And we wanted to find that harmony in the middle of a well-blended, well-balanced rye. And that is the North Coast Rye. But
I think on the nose up front, it's more traditional rye like you would expect. Like you said, that butteriness definitely shows up on the palate on this one. That definitely makes a difference between other ryes in the market. I mean, and we know that like ryes, not necessarily age a lot quicker, but they show their good characteristics earlier than a bourbon. So younger ryes are some of the better spirits that I prefer. I actually had one this past weekend. I had one from Hotel Tango, and that was a 2-year rye, and I freaking love that rye. So younger ryes are like where it's at.
Yeah, especially if you have the right wood. That taught us such a valuable lesson.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's your typical rye spice, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit more depth to it there. It's definitely a lot more mouthfeel. It reminds me of like I know there's no corn in it, but it does remind me of like a corn sweetness that you get on some whiskeys, but it complements the rye spice very, very well.
Yeah, agreed. Now, of these three that are what we would call bottle proof, so far, what is your jam? What do you enjoy the most?
I was now it's been a minute since I've only had the barrel proof once, so we're going to move into that very soon. But I just was so surprised with how much I enjoyed the cherry. I actually tried it last night in a Manhattan, using your cocktail cherries as well. That. And it serves itself up. I mean, I think next time I'll probably just, instead of mixing it with things, I'll probably just honestly just pour it over ice and just have it that way. Because it's almost like a cocktail in a glass with that cherry influence.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I actually probably would have said the exact same thing.
But the rye, I mean, I'm a rye fan. I love a good rye whiskey. I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of like an underserved market. There's not very many ryes in the market, and those that are, they're not doing anything interesting. But the fact that you guys are distilling your own, you're blending it right now with a 95.5 rye. But I mean, I think rye is something that needs to be explored, and the fact that you guys are doing that is really, really cool.
Yeah, right on. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess we can move on into the barrel proof, the highlight of the night. Because I mean, like I said, people know I love high proof spirits. So tell us about your barrel proof. Now, this is the bourbon. This is not the rye. So my bottle is 58.3% ABV.
And I'm at 57.5.
You said 57.5 or 50.75?
Yeah, 57.5.
Okay, it's like 57.5. That's a big difference. Okay, but that makes a lot more sense. So tell us about this one. So is the same mash bill as your bourbon, the straight bourbon?
Yeah. So the barrel proof bourbon is the same recipe. This is not blending in any of our own distillate.
Okay.
And this is at least a 5-year MGP bourbon.
Awesome.
So yeah, we've had some recent accolades for this product. It won a double gold best in category in 2019 at the San Francisco International Wine and Spirits Competition.
Congratulations!
And thank you. Yeah, it was it put us on the map nationally, which is crazy. It also won a gold this year at the same competition. So it's kind of carried its own. It's a very dynamic, complex bourbon. It's a very very tailored blend of high proof bourbon barrels. Same recipe: 71 corn, 25 rye, 4% malted barley.
Gotcha. So yeah, I'm pouring a second glass because I realized that I didn't rinse my cherry glass, and I was like, "This smells like cherry." That's my fault. So I'm using a new glass now. I mean, to be fair, that's probably a pretty good combination. Adding a little bit of the cherry and a little bit of the barrel proof. That actually sounds delicious. But for the sake of tonight, we're not going to do that.
It's like makeshift barrel proof cherry.
That's maybe. Hey, there you go. It's like the barrel proof cherry. I'm glad I did that because this is completely different on the nose. it's still, like you said, 5-year like it's MGP, 5-year barrel proof. I mean, these guys know Smoke Wagon kind of releases the similar thing because they're out here West Coast, but that is some fantastic whiskey. So do you guys, I know we keep talking about MGP, but do you guys take their distillate and age it on site, or do you guys source it, already aged?
Yeah, no, it's all aged up here in Traverse City. We have, I think, 1,200 barrels racked in our building right now, going back, a decade, maybe more, of just fun stuff that we've acquired over the years. But most of it, probably 90 to 95% of it, was contract distilled and then shipped up here.
Awesome. And so how does the weather, we know that weather impacts the whiskey so much with aging. I mean, Texas whiskey is so like bold, rich, dark, but how is the weather like in your area, and how do you think it affects the whiskey?
Yes. So you can't see it, but this is one of our banners. And beneath the logo is our moniker. That our moniker is the whiskey of the North. And what does that mean to us, or to you, I guess?
Yeah.
So Northern Michigan is North. It's like Minnesota North. It's like Alaska North or Canada North, so to speak. And the one thing that we're blessed with in Traverse City here in Northern Michigan is a change of climate. So we have 4 very defined seasons. And as you probably know, whiskey ages best with that expansion and contraction in the wood. Right. That's changed by temperature and the change in relative humidity, which we have a lot of. So we don't have 2 independent aging cycles per year going from, like in Tennessee and Kentucky, just going from hot to cold. We have hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold, and hot to cold. And it's this rapid transformation where right now, if it were colder, like it typically is in January, we typically have a sheet of ice on the wall of our rack house downstairs. Wow. And so there's these like extreme temperatures that really push the whiskey more than you would typically expect for any environment. Our warehouse is it's not conditioned. It's pretty much like it's 100% exposed to the environment. We do close the windows when it gets down to the negatives, but the whiskey in the North really stands for kind of the variety of temperature that we constantly endure in Northern Michigan.
Yeah, and I think the biggest impact I'm having is like, this is the most interesting finish I've had in a while because it doesn't go anywhere. It's still there. Like I took my last sip, you guys can count like 30 seconds, minute ago. It's still there. That barrel impact is just lingering. And I love that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of like how oak impacts the flavor of whiskey. Like you said, you guys don't just grab a barrel and just put it in a bottle. You guys take the barrel when it's young, age it those extra years, and just really has an impact on the climate of your area. And I think that's so special.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of our shtick, actually.
Yeah. So there's a couple questions I want to get to before we call it a night, because I know you got to go. So there was one. Wait. Okay. So Sugar Kitty asks, multi-floor or single floor? So yeah, how is your like barrels? How are they aging?
Yeah, multi-floor, 3 tiers, 4 tiers.
3 tiers. Gotcha.
4 tiers. Yep.
JG asks, is Traverse City available in Central Iowa?
Yes, actually. It's available. Well, it's available in Des Moines, and it's available throughout the state. It is special order, but we've been sending a lot more there in the last probably 2 or 3 months.
Gotcha. So Barndoor's question is very similar to what Adriana was asking. So they said, is there a reason other than cost that the distilleries don't climate control their warehouses to achieve a more consistent flavor?
Well, I think the variety of atmosphere and weather and every contributing factor to that expansion and contraction within the barrel, that's the romance. So that's what makes Scotland, is that crazy cold environment that when you age a whiskey in the barrel, it's only what it is after 12 to 15 years. But that maturation cycle, it's impacted so much by the environment that if you did climate control, you lose that special spice, I guess. Yeah, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. I mean, I think that's what makes whiskey special. Is like it's a very much an element of the elements. Like whatever's happening around it impacts that whiskey, and I think that's really special. So, okay,
100%.
final question of the night, which it's been asked twice so far. Someone says, any chance for a barrel proof cherry rye? Interesting.
Wait, a barrel proof cherry what?
So they said barrel proof cherry rye. So they're saying like take the rye whiskey and put the cherries in it. Have you guys thought about that?
Interesting. Well, we tried it with the bourbon. That was V1. But with that question, maybe that's a good R&D opportunity for the second annual Cherry Whiskey Fest.
Yeah, well, you have two people asking. Someone said, like, I second his question that he asked earlier. So people are interested. Hey, I'm here for it.
Love it.
Well, I know you're going to head out. Yeah, so I just want to, again, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I really, really enjoy these. You asked me earlier which one was my favorite. I gotta put the favorite to the Barrel Proof, because after trying the Barrel Proof, that's a fantastic whiskey. But the cherry whiskey, I mean, if you guys are still worried like I was about like flavored whiskeys, give this one a try, because it'll completely blow your mind. It's nothing like you would expect a flavored whiskey to be. So Chris, any final thoughts, or any new things coming up soon, or just anything you want to put out there to the world?
Yes. So we are very hospitality forward. And so when this whole travel ban dies down, call it after December 2021, please come visit us for a super fun, humble education or just tasting and distillery experience up in Traverse City. We would love to host you.
Awesome. How far are you guys from Dearborn, Michigan? Just curious. I don't know how far.
Yeah, it's a hike. It's probably about three and a half hours, but
gotcha. See, one of our shows that my company that I work for, we are headquartered in Dearborn. So I was like, maybe I can make a little side trip if I go to Dearborn. Can I make it out Traverse City? 3 hours, I can make it work this year, hopefully.
We do have an airport, so you're always welcome to fly in.
That's right. I don't know if I want to fly that close distance from between Dearborn and that, but would absolutely love to visit you guys. And again, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I mean, I'm very excited about the brand, and I know these guys have been excited for this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you hosting me.
Yeah, of course. Well, cheers, you guys. And I will see you guys on Saturday for some cocktails and some drams with our good friend, Don Nishida. But until next time, this has been Bourbon Bites, whiskey reviews with a gaming twist. I'm Clifton, and I'll see you guys on Saturday.
Cheers.